cooking services program. Our session today is around cooking with electricity and how we can go from aspiration to reality, particularly drawing upon the journey that we've taken with the e-cookbooks, a resource that enables people to understand the compatibility of local cuisine with energy efficient appliances. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Jacob Fodio-Todd, who's going to take us through the first slides for the presentation today. Shukri, can you go on to the next? Well, Jacob, I think it's you that's the slide master, right? So I'll hand over straight to you.
Hi, thanks, John. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Just to give a brief overview of what we're going to be discussing today. My name is Jacob Fodio-Todd. I'm based at the University of Sussex in the UK, working with the MECS for some years and involved in the culinary team, along with John Leary. Together we'll be talking a bit about the provenance of the e-cookbooks idea and how it's come to be interpreted. After that, we hear from Sophie Rotman from Mediae and the Shamba Shape Up, a Kenyan original TV program that airs to millions. And Sophie will tell you a bit about how the e-cookbooks informed part of their programming with electric cooking. Afterwards, we'll hear from Katerina Alois from Tatedo, one of the MECS partners in Tanzania, about the Tanzania e-cookbook, which is pictured in the top right of the screen in Swahili and in English. And next, hear from Precious Phiri, who's a Zambian food blogger, has a platform, Zambian Kitchen, about the Zambia e-cookbook and where that's going. And also from Vimbai, another member of the MECS culinary team, about what's coming next in terms of the e-cookbooks and the various different bits. Finally, we'll end with a Q&A if anyone has any questions. So just to give a brief overview of the e-cookbook. So the e-cookbook came out of the 2018 Kenyan Cooking Diaries, and this was a methodology that's been employed by MECS in a few different countries and contexts, which gathers a huge amount of data about cooks cooking, predominantly using electric cooking appliances, but also on biomass. So recording a lot of energy consumption and cooking practices. And although it has accumulated a huge amount of data, it was mainly of interest to researchers and perhaps practitioners in the energy and development and cooking sectors. And we thought perhaps we could do something to make it more accessible to a wider audience. So to strip out some of the data and add a few more elements that would make it more accessible to the everyday person who's interested in perhaps food and cooking. So these are some of the types of people involved. John Leary, pictured there, labeled himself an engineer, has been involved in e-cooking for many years. Had Nigel from Gamos, who's a whiz with numbers and made the stats was able to draw out nice conclusions and findings to present. And myself, I published previously a cookbook and work as a chef. And Damaris is one of the participants of the Kenyan Cooking Diaries program and was picked as one of the participants that we focused in on, and obviously is the expert on cooking the dishes she had grown up with. So how do we produce it? We spent a day with each of the participants. There was 4 of the people involved in the Cooking Diaries in Kenya, and just spent a day cooking, shopping for the food, preparing dishes, and getting anecdotes from different people, and also getting the energy consumption data. So it was meticulous analysis of the data and kind of getting anecdotes and kind of making it more of a story as to how and why they were cooking certain dishes, so why Damaris would cook certain dishes in certain ways. So that turned into e-cookbook pages. So these were the original documents. On the left-hand side, you can see that's just how to cook beans using electric pressure cooker, which at the time, electric pressure cookers weren't easily available, readily available in Kenya. Increasingly, they are now. And It was just to demonstrate some small changes you might make. So maybe use a little bit less water when cooking beans using electric pressure cooker. A lot of this information came out of the experiences of Damaris and others cooking. On the right hand side, there's kind of some of the information as to how much money was spent on cooking these dishes. And as you can see, the EPC is far cheaper to use to cook that quantity of beans on than charcoal, significantly cheaper, and also took far less time. The reason we focused on money was because from a few focus group discussions, it was evident that people were that was one of the things that people cared most about, and the time also was a huge consideration. So those are the key messages that really came out of the Kenyan e-cookbook. So how to save time and money, after having a lot of discussions with various different people about what sort of aspects of the data we had would be interesting. So this is the front cover and the end cover of the cookbook. Some of the other key messages that came out of it was safe. So there's a page dedicated to the safety features of EPCs. It's convenient. So Damaris would put some food on to cook and go to church service and come back and wouldn't have to worry about turning out the fire or doing anything along those lines, because it was all automated and just kept insulated, so it was hot as well when she returned. So obviously there was a taste aspect of it. It needed to be at least as tasty as cooking it using other dishes, other fuels and appliances. On the right hand side, you can see the cheapest way to cook heavy foods. You can also see how well it performs in comparison to the other fuels that are available at the cost at that time. So significantly cheaper than all the other fuels on the market cooking beans. And that was one of the focuses of the Ecookbook was the beans, because of its drastic energy and accordingly cost savings. So in 2018 or 19, can't remember now, there was a Kenyan e-cookbook launch and the MECS East Africa launch, which also featured the launch of the e-cookbook. So I'm just going to play a little video from the session. So I'm just playing this video.
The Kenya e-cookbook Beans and Cereals Edition was launched in Nairobi on the 14th and 15th May 2019 at the East Africa launch event for the Modern Energy Cooking Services Program. This 5-year UK aid-funded research and innovation program aims to transform access to clean cooking technologies by putting the cook first. The event brought together key actors from the clean cooking and electrification sectors to discuss new opportunities for electricity and other modern fuels such as LPG to offer affordable and desirable alternatives to cooking with biomass in East Africa. The event allowed us to showcase the huge savings in time, money, and energy presented in the e-cookbook with a series of live cooking demonstrations. On the first day, leading
Sorry about the technical issues. John, do you want to try sharing your screen and showing the video?
Yeah, if I can find the button to do the sound. That was the issue before. Shukri, do you have this one loaded up?
Yes. Cheese.
The Kenya Ecookbook Beans and Cereals Edition was launched in Nairobi on the 14th and 15th May 2019 at the East Africa launch event for the Modern Energy Cooking Services Program. This 5-year UK aid-funded research and innovation program aims to transform access to clean cooking technologies by putting the cook first. The event brought together key actors from the clean cooking and electrification sectors to discuss new opportunities for electricity and other modern fuels such as LPG to offer affordable and desirable alternatives to cooking with biomass in East Africa. The event allowed us to showcase the huge savings in time, money, and energy presented in the eCookbook with a series of live cooking demonstrations. On the first day, leading East African food blogger Jikoni Magic, who celebrates Kenyan cuisine, took center stage. I'm a food blogger. Jikoni Magic is my brand, coming up with food that is soul food, classic Kenyan food that can be enjoyed, and how to draw flavors from your food without getting too complicated. Serving up a delicious chicken stew on an EPC, losing nothing in terms of flavor, but making big savings on energy and, most importantly, time and money. The eCookbook focuses on everyday cooking and features 4 everyday cooks who share their top tips for saving time and money in the kitchen. On the second day, the stars of the eCookbook, Judy, Damaris, Christine, and Karen, cooked popular Kenyan dishes such as ugali, githeri, beans, and matoke, whilst explaining how the modern energy-efficient electric appliances have become an indispensable part of their kitchen routines. Dishes such as beans that previously took over 3 hours to cook using charcoal were reduced to under an hour by switching to an electric pressure cooker or EPC. In this eCookbook, which is available for free online, we show you how you could cook smarter and make huge time and money savings too. The eCookbook looks at the potential impact of including energy-efficient practices in your everyday cooking routine, as well as adopting new fuels or appliances, and showing just how much you could save with each. Each e-recipe featured in the eCookbook was recorded at the cook's home using a plug-in energy meter. Here's Damaris' reaction when she found out how much she'd saved by cooking dinner on an EPC instead of charcoal.
Final calculation is 100 bob you were spending before on charcoal, 20 bob you spent right now to cook that meal. So it's 5 times cheap.
Right, I'll pass on to John Leary, who will talk us through the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Jacob. Can you see my screen okay now?
Yes,
Great.
I can.
So whilst we had originally conceived the eCookbook as being a tool for everyday cooks to put down on the counter and to refer to as they're cooking their beans, going through the recipe step by step, what we actually realized was that we'd created a very powerful advocacy tool that was very useful for policymakers, directors of NGOs and private companies, and a tool to be able to share the knowledge about this new opportunity. We realized partway through the production process that actually cookbooks are not really widely used in Kenya. Most younger cooks now consult YouTube or other content on social media produced by local food bloggers. So what we ended up doing was using it as a reference document to be able to share this opportunity with other people that may not have thought about electricity as a option for providing access to clean cooking. We designed it in such a way that it had a modular format, so that the individual pages could be split up into posters, JPEGs to be shared on social media, or as you see on the photo here a flyer, which was simply the page that many people flick to in the cookbook, and the cover itself, so the page showing the cost comparison of the EPC versus the other popular fuels. This is our colleague Thomas Gottschalk from A2EI sharing that insight with the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, at the GOGLA conference in Nairobi, just before COVID shut the world down. So, on to the next slide. The Kenya Ecookbook we were developing actually before the MECS program existed in a previous project called LCT, or Low Cost Technologies for the Bottom of the Pyramid. After we developed the cookbook itself and launched it, we started reaching out, or in parallel, we started reaching out to local food bloggers, such as Agnes Kalyonge from Jikoni Magic, who then produced a series of video recipes and started marketing electric pressure cookers to her followers on Instagram and YouTube. She also came to the East Africa launch, as you saw in the video, and carried out a live cooking demonstration to showcase how easy it is to cook popular Kenyan dishes with energy efficient appliances. Around that time, we also launched the MECS Challenge Funds, which enabled private sector organizations to experiment and develop viable business models for bringing EPCs to the Kenyan market. Jikoni Magic, Agnes Kalyonge and her team also reached out to other influencers in Kenya to spread the word about this new form of cooking. You had other bloggers such as Nemo's Kitchen start to produce content as well. In 2020, we saw the second eCookbook, which we'll hear more about from Katerina Alois later in the presentation today. And then in 2021, earlier this year, we had the Myanmar eCookbook, which is published in both English and in Burmese. The eCookbook also enabled us to initiate a collaboration with Kenya Power, the national electric utility in Kenya. They had already set up a demand stimulation program encouraging Kenyans to cook with the surplus electricity available on the Kenyan grid. And what the eCookbook did was enable them to see the potential of the electric pressure cooker as a complement to the other electric cooking appliances they were already promoting. I will also hear later today from Mediae, the producers of Shamba Shape Up, who took the eCookbook and essentially used it as a script to produce a series of features for their series showing farmers how they can shape up their shamba or farm, also enabling them to see how they could shape up their kitchen and transform the way that they cook. Our colleagues at CLASP collaborated with us to run a competition to find out what was the best electric pressure cooker. We carried out lab testing in the US and usability testing here in Nairobi. This enabled us to identify the models of electric pressure cooker that we wanted to promote during future results-based financing schemes, or RBF schemes, which subsidized the sale of electric pressure cookers in the Kenyan market. Last year, there was a program for 5,000 electric pressure cookers. This year, another for 3,000, and we hope this is just the beginning. This enabled many different types of actors to enter the electric pressure cooker market, including mini-grid developers such as PowerHive and conventional appliance retailers such as Hotpoint. And then finally, we'll also hear today from Precious Phiri, who will be telling us about the new collaboration we've developed through our partners in Zambia, SEAS, to develop a Zambian e-cookbook. So to reiterate our presenters today, first of all, we have Catherine Alois from Tetedo, who's going to tell us about the Tanzania e-cookbook, of which she was the lead author. Then we'll go on to Mediae. We have Sophie Rotman, who's the producer of Shamba Shape Up. And finally, we'll hear from Precious Phiri, who is a co-author of the Zambia eCookbook, which is currently under development. So I'm going to pass over to Shukri for the presentation that's been delivered by Katerina Alois. It's a recorded presentation, but Katerina is here with us today and hopefully will be able to join us for the Q&A afterwards. So Shukri, can I pass over to you as the controller of the computer with a working sound system?
Yes. Hi everyone, my name is Katarina Wes. I work for the TED. I'm here to present to you about the Tanzania Ecookbook and the clean cooking solution efforts being undertaken here. You are all welcome. In this presentation, we'll have an introduction. We'll also see a bit about the contents. We'll also see some highlights of the Ecook milestone in Tanzania, and then we'll conclude. Introduction. The first Ecook studies in Tanzania were conducted in 2017 to 2018 by Tatedo in collaboration with the University of Loughborough, University of Sussex, and the Gamos Limited. And we can say this is when the first seed of Ecook issues in Tanzania was planted. Then we wrote the Ecook books, the English version and the Swahili one in 2020. And it was written by Tatedo as part of a research study through MECS project. In this general edition, our main goal was to raise awareness. This awareness is still new. And also using of EPC to cook common Tanzania dishes. We also indicated how cooking with EPC can save time, money, life, and how it is environmental friendly. The Tanzania Ecook. The first chapter was just an introduction, and the second one is about cooking experience in Tanzania. The situation is that more than 85% of the households in Tanzania still cook with either firewood or charcoal, and they use a very low efficient stoves. The use of electricity for cooking is less than 1%, and for LPG is only 7.2%. So this is why the first part of the book was important to show the cooking situation in Tanzania, so as to see the importance of introducing the clean cooking solutions so as to rescue the situation. Chapter 3 is about cooking with the electricity. This chapter introduced why electricity can be used for cooking.
Shukri, sorry to intervene. I think we've got a lot of comments on various platforms flying in about the background noise. So we try and switch over to my computer, and I'll see if I can get the sound working. I think I can see that button now, the computer sound one.
All right, I'll stop sharing now.
Okay, let me try. Apologies for the difficulties hearing everyone.
Hi everyone, my name is Katarina Wes. I work for the TED.
Could you hear, Katerina? Okay.
I'm here to present to you about the Tanzania Ecookbook and the clean cooking solution efforts being undertaken here. You are all welcome. In this presentation, we'll have an introduction. We'll also see a bit about the Ecookbook contents. We'll also see some highlights of the Ecook milestone in Tanzania, and then we'll conclude. Introduction. The first Ecook studies in Tanzania were conducted in 2017 to 2018 by Tatedo in collaboration with the University of Blackburn, University of Sussex, and the Gamos Limited. And we can say this is when the first seed of Ecook issues in Tanzania was planted. Then we wrote the Ecookbooks, the English version and Swahili one in 2020. And it was written by Tatedo as part of a research study through MECS project. In this general edition, our main goal was to raise awareness, because awareness is still and also using your EPC to cook common Tanzania dishes. We also indicated how cooking with EPC can save time, money, life, and how it is environmental friendly. The Tanzania Ecookbook contents. The first chapter was just an introduction, and the second one is about cooking experience in Tanzania. The situation is that more than 85% of the households in Tanzania still cook with either firewood or charcoal, and they use very low efficient stoves. The use of electricity for cooking is less than 1%, and for LPG is only 7.2%. So this is why the first part of the book was important, to show the cooking situation in Tanzania, so as to see the importance of introducing the clean cooking solutions so as to rescue the situation. Chapter 3 is about cooking with the electricity. In this chapter, I introduced why electricity can be used for cooking. Also described how the use of efficient electric appliances can make it possible in terms of cost and safety. Most people do fear about electricity cost and also electric accidents when cooking. So this helps to clear the doubt, and they introduce also the EPC as the efficient appliance. It also introduces it as an ultimate clean cooking solution, and explain how to use it step by step, advantages and the safety features. Also, the adoption of modern ways of cooking, which is linked with the studies which were conducted in 2017 to 2018. And this is the living testimony which was drawn from the Ecook initiatives when the first cooking diaries were conducted in Tanzania. And there was a lesson from there that cooking with electricity in Tanzania is possible. And it is cheaper, efficient, and more convenient compared to other energy sources. Chapter 4 is about EPC recipes for Tanzania staple food. To get the 10 recipes of common Tanzania dishes, we had to convert the common recipes we have here. As we can see on the right is the screenshot of one page, which is about pilau. It is a normal pilau we cook here, but the procedures of cooking it in EPC is somehow different compared to when you use other fuels. In this chapter, we indicated how to cook these recipes step by step, And we indicated also the electricity consumption and the related cost in these small boxes. Chapter 5 is about energy efficient kitchen practices, and this is a very important chapter, and it is actually one of the chapters which we adopted it from the Kenya Ecookbook, and it indicates how the choose of correct appliance and how we conduct ourselves in the kitchen can affect the time, energy, and money we use for preparing a certain meal. A similar meal of same size can result into different cost of preparing just because of this. So it shows also how the use of efficient appliance like EPC in combined with the other energy saving tips can save over 90% of the cost and 70% of the time compared to when cooking inefficiently on simple hot plate. Chapter 6 raised the voices of some EPC users. In this chapter, we gave opportunity to some of the EPC users from different groups to share their feelings about EPC after using it. For instance, the busy entrepreneur, we call them mind, who used it to skip their meals because of avoiding time wasting in the kitchen, could now first prepare his meal using EPC and still serve his customers because of its convenience. In chapter 7, we introduced some materials with policy recommendations to help policymakers. So from the initial plan was the book to reach everyone, including the government and the policy makers. So this chapter is very important as it can lead to great changes in this section. Chapter 8 is about where to get EPC. So this chapter gives information to any reader to get in touch with the supplier of quality EPCs like SESCOM, and also providing important information on the efforts being undertaken to raise awareness, like the Ecook trainings and the demonstrations. In this section, we'll see some highlights of the Ecook activities being undertaken by Tatedo in collaboration with the MECS and the other stakeholders. And as you can see, Tatedo, through its social enterprise, SESCOM, has managed to brand, import, and supply more than 2,000 high-quality EPCs in collaboration with the MECS. And it is quality, as we can see the certificate here. It is a winner of 2020 Global Leap Award Electric Pressure Cooker Competition in the category of medium AC power. Also managed to build a network of agents whereby more than 40 agents were linked and are now distributing our SESCOM EPCs. And here is the certificate with the specification and the results from the test which was performed. Ecook trainings is another great tool which intends to promote and raise awareness so that more households will switch from biomass to clean cooking solutions. And in order to achieve this goal, Tatedo, in collaboration with other stakeholders, has undertaken the following. That is to train and raise awareness to more than 2,000 people, including MPs, policymakers, and the other citizens. 60 participants are able to be trained on how to use EPCs. Also, the fostering enabling environment through engaging policy and decision makers to reduce or remove the very heavy taxes on EPCs. This is awareness raising and marketing project. Yeah. Awareness through various exhibitions. Conclusion. The Ecookbooks are key and important awareness raising tool, and they have been supplied to various groups, including the governmental and non-governmental entities, libraries, energy stakeholders, and the EPC distributors, etc. Stakeholders are called upon for their support to print out more copies for wider population to access the knowledge in need. For instance, when we are called for EPC trainings, each participant to get his or her copy. Support of all these efforts from government and other stakeholders is required to ensure that most households in Tanzania use efficient electric appliances by 2030 as per the United Nations goal of sustainable energy for all.
So thank you, Katerina. It's always inspiring to hear about the holistic approach that Tatedo and Sescom are taking to build the market for electric cooking in Tanzania. It seems just yesterday that we were sat together in Dar es Salaam at a stakeholder workshop presenting the EPC as a new appliance that was relatively unknown. And now we see engagement with policymakers on national TV and huge demand for electric pressure cookers that's largely being met by Tatedo and their sister company, Sescom. So well done, congratulations once again for the Global Leap Award win. It's very well deserved and always inspiring to hear your stories. So next we are going to go back to Kenya and we are going to hear from Media. Just give me 1 second whilst I load up the video, which hopefully you'll be able to hear. So over to Sophie, who is going to take us through Media's Shamba Shape Up production, which aired in Kenya last year and this year.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sophie Rockman, and I work with the media company based in Nairobi. At Media, we look at how we can support development and education through using media. I want to talk to you today about the work that we've been doing with MECS to promote clean cooking in Kenya. And what we've done is we've used our very basic edutainment model. This is the model we have at Media. So essentially, we're looking at how can we entertain our audiences while meeting their information needs, build audiences over time through series, so people keep coming back to watch and learn more, interact with our audiences through SMS, phone, leaflets, the social media. And this allows us to serve the commercial and development sector while keep on getting funding and growing our numbers, essentially creating a sustainable model. Here are some of our main productions. For those Kenyans out there, you'll probably know Makutano Junction. It was our drama series that ran for 16 years, looking at different social political issues, governance, schooling, health. We have the No Zone, the children's school program, and Shamba Chef, which was our program on clean cooking and nutrition, which many of you will be familiar with. We worked very closely with the Alliance on that. So today I want to talk about Shamba Shaper, which is our makeover program on smallholder farms. We have in Kenya a weekly audience of about 8 million viewers that watch every week, Saturday or Sunday in English or in Kiswahili. And there's a mobile backup system called iShamba that allows us to communicate with our audience in a two-way stream. So I've mentioned Shamba Chef. What we've done since our Shamba Chef is we've incorporated the clean cooking element and nutrition into every episode of Shamba Shape Up, so that when we're visiting a farm and we've identified there's an issue with the cow, the roofing, and irrigation, we'll now look at how are we cooking in this household and how can we maybe improve that. So just to take us a few steps back, why television? So there's three very simple reasons why we're doing television. One is that you get a far larger reach, particularly in Kenya, where we now have over 250 FM stations. It's very difficult to get a large audience on radio, especially at a time where you have a lot of listeners at prime time. So with Shamba Shape Up, we're reaching 4.2 million households weekly. If you're looking at least 2 people watching in a household, you get to about 8 million viewers. And that's a modest estimate. With Radio Primetime Citizen, the best you can get really is about 700,000 listeners. And it's very difficult to get those primetime segments if you're not paying. So essentially, that's when they do a lot of the advertising. So that's why we're with television. You get a larger reach. The second reason is that the people that have a television or have access to television are more likely to be in and out of the cash economy. So these are the people who are more likely to make the risk or take the risk, afford the risk to make a change in their farming practices or even get a new appliance. Also, what we find with our audience is that for our viewers, they find television to be their most trusted source of information, whereas people in lower socioeconomic groups who maybe just have access to radio, you'll find that their most trusted sources of information are friends or neighbors. So we really want to target these people that trust television to then spread the word and have a bit of an impact on the communities on people who might not have access to television. And then 3, television is visual. So that's a really clear one, especially when you're looking at new cooking appliances. Seeing is believing. How does it work? How does the food look like? And so on. So you can really have a larger impact on something that's visual. So we've been working together with MECS. We looked at these are just some of the key issues we identified. So we really wanted to set the scene. How are people cooking at the moment? And what are some of the issues related to that? So the time constraints, the collection of wood, but also the lighting, the cooking itself, general hazards, pollution. But then looking now at if we're introducing a new cooking appliance such as the electric pressure cooker, what is the safety around that? People, we found a lot of farmers are quite hesitant because they have very bad experience with pressure cookers. So what's the safety, items around that? What is the cost of cooking, both the appliance, but also the electricity cost, and then health issues. So those are broadly the categories we wanted to look at together. So here's just one clip I've pulled out for you where we look at some of these aspects in an episode.
Going to cook pigeon peas, mbaazi, using firewood.
And I'm going to make the same pigeon peas using an electric pressure cooker.
Oh, is that a challenge?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. So, let the cook-off begin. And there's no time to lose. First, I have to find some firewood. Luckily, I got some help from Anna's neighbor, Juliana Nyika.
There is no need for me to gather wood. I am joining our expert and farmer to get started on the electric pressure cooker. I've been using firewood, which has been expensive for me. Just a bundle will produce 100, which will spend to prepare one meal. And you have to prepare 3 meals in a day, basic meals. Yes. I also have a challenge of time.
Anne is right. Her neighbor tells me it will take us over 2 hours to prepare our pigeon peas. Firewood is a bit damp, so lots of smoke. But we can't leave as we need to keep adding firewood and water to the pot.
Yes, your troubles are over. I have something we call an EPC. That is an electric pressure cooker. Yes. It's only going to take 40 minutes from the minute we start cooking to the end, and the investment is what is expensive. But in the long run, it is cheaper. Yeah. When you are cooking with it, the amount of fuel cost is so much lower than what, for example, what Tony is doing out there. Tony is using 100 shillings plus. We are going to cook the same meal, same ingredients, and we are going to use guaranteed less than 20 shillings. Really, and I have an energy meter here, which is going to measure the fuel cost for us, and we will see the cost of that meal. Now, let's cover and put in the settings to cook the beans. Probably we need to go and check on Tony, because with us, we don't need to touch this appliance anymore. It frees you up to do other things. But Tony has to watch his pot.
Our pigeon peas have boiled. Now we need to start frying. It's so hot in here.
40 minutes and our food is cooked. The pressure cooker is keeping our food warm as we wait for Tony.
It's taken us close to 3 hours. I need to take my food to Carol.
Hey, look who's here. Tony, what happened to you?
Why?
Have you seen your face?
I was living.
Can you believe how much time we took to make ours? 40 minutes.
What?
Yes.
I slept there for over 3 hours, and yet there was a simple solution.
It took 40 minutes to cook with the electric pressure cooker compared to over 2 hours using wood. The electric pressure cooker used 12 shillings worth of electricity compared to around 100 shillings to buy firewood.
Yeah, so that was one of the formats we did, the cook-off, which proved to be quite popular because people could actually see a direct comparison between the traditional way and the EPC. After the 10th series, we did a review. So we did what we call the CAP study, the Knowledge, Attitude and Practice Survey. But we also got feedback from the different chefs that we worked with through the MECS program. So just now we saw Rairimo, who works with KPLC, and she actually has her own cooking demonstration. And her and the other chefs actually reported an increase of sales during this period and much increased interaction through phones, so people calling them directly. We were also allowed to give out their numbers through our mobile backup, iShamba, but also personal messages, social media, and blogs, so we could really see there was attraction. We found in our CAP study that viewers were actually more likely than non-viewers to use the electric pressure cooker to cook, for example, Phiri, so 62% versus 41%. Then we were asking what was the reason for not getting a pressure cooker, and we found that cost was actually still a key factor. So the cost of the appliance and cost of electricity was an issue, an issue that came up. And we generally had a very large interaction on Facebook and iShamba. So to give you an example, iShamba, we had over 120 interactions with people sending us messages. For example, dear iShamba, watching your program today, just wanted to know where to get the electric pressure cooker. So we could refer them to Agnes Wairimu and some of the other chefs that were on the program. So again, that just showed us, what are people interested in? Is it buying it? Is it, I want to know more about it? How does it work? We had a whole raft of questions around that. So after sitting back together with the MECS team and the chefs, we decided to do a few more episodes together, focusing this time on finance. So how could I finance it as an individual? Also comparing the EPC to other cooking appliances, especially the traditional pressure cooker, and looking at how we can actually target and involve young men because they're potential big, user of EPC. So here's an episode that we did on how to finance the electric pressure cooker.
My final task for the day, see how I can help Zaina and the ladies of our local savings group afford an electric pressure cooker. And we have invited expert Dorothy Atieno from Nyalore Impact to help explain how.
I am here today to show you other ways that you can cook for your husband, for your family, in a very easy and simple way, without so much stress, without pain, without crying, without sneezing, without coughing. So instead of just contributing money and giving to each one, you can also now increase something small and acquire the electric pressure cooker for each one of you. And within a year, because already they are spending almost 5,000 in a month to cook. The electric pressure cooker is almost that amount. Yeah, you just add very little money and you have it. So I can imagine in a year, you will all have acquired an electric pressure cooker. Is that something good or not?
Wow, we can cook stews, fish, meat, or fry food with an electric pressure cooker. But today, we are going to simply demonstrate cooking family's favorite meal.
Hi, John. Just checking. We can't hear the sound.
Apologies, I think someone stole the screen share by accident. Let me reshare again and rewind. Apologies for these technical difficulties once again. And please do be careful when you're pressing the buttons. Please do not share your screen as it displaces mine.
Fish, meat, or fry food with an electric pressure cooker. But today, we are going to simply demonstrate cooking family's favorite meal, ugali.
So we will cover now and wait for the water to boil so that we can make our ugali.
It took just a few minutes and the water was boiling nicely.
We know that ugali, it is just a matter of adding the flour and stirring. So after we have stirred and the water is well mixed with the flour, we will cover. When you are covering, we will not put pressure, we will just cover and let it cook.
It takes 7 to 10 minutes for ugali to be ready. And compared to 200 shillings for a day's firewood, this meal costs less than 10 shillings in electricity. But the real test is still to come. How does it taste? Is it ready?
Yeah. Women, you have seen, we have cooked the ugali.
Yes.
I didn't have any running tear in my eyes. I was not coughing. I was not sneezing. There was no smoke. The cooking went on within a very short time and so smoothly and easily.
Umefurahia ugali. Umefurahia kabisa.
So again, that was an episode that we found really, really well done and hopefully impactful. We're doing the research now, but again, you'll find in Kenya that probably 80% of women out in rural areas are part of some kind of savings group, a chama, table banking. So, you know, this is a potential place to go to because again, they're saving quite a bit of money together. And like our expert said here, in a year's time, you could probably have everybody get an electric pressure cooker and save on expenses in the long term. So yeah, that was one way of looking at how you could actually finance the pressure cooker. So what's next? At the moment, we've just finished broadcasting this full series, so all episodes are now out and complete. They're on our website. They're available partly on downloadable short clips through our social media. We're currently doing the CAP study, which is due in November. So we're very curious to see what the impact of this series was, especially on those areas we identified as having a bit of a gap. And we're now starting to film the new series of Shamba Shape Up in Kenya, which will go out in air for the long rains in March 2022. But for media altogether, we're really looking at scaling up Shamba Shape Up and taking this format to other countries. We know it works in Kenya. We've been doing this for 12 years here. So we're looking at how can we scale this into other countries. The Swahili version of our Kenyan program goes out in Tanzania where possible. But right now we've launched Shamba Shape Up in Uganda. So we're filming it entirely in English and Luganda locally. So we've just launched that this month. And the series will go out in February and follow the main growing season for Eastern Uganda and Central Uganda. Next, we're looking to go to Zambia. That's in 2022, 23, and then Ethiopia, Nigeria, South Africa. So we're very keen on having the clean cooking issue and nutrition at the, as a key part of Shamba Shape Up as we scale out, and would love to hear from you and work together with you as we do that. So thank you very much for your attention, and please do get in touch with us. I look forward to your questions and to discussing further with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. So I think the partnership with media has been a great example of how we did eventually manage to meet our target or reach our target audience of everyday cooks. The content that they produced really brought the cookbook itself to life and really told the story in a much more engaging way than a conventional book ever could. So next up, we are heading over to Zambia, and we're going to hear from Precious from Zambian Kitchen, who's going to tell us about her cookbook, the Zambian Foods Cookbook, and how this is feeding into the development of the Zambia Ecookbook.
Hello everyone, my name is Precious Phiri. That's me in the picture. I am an environmentalist and a food blogger. I'm also the founder and owner of ZambianKitchen.com. I'm an author of an e-cookbook called the Zambian Foods Cookbook. And my educational background is that I have a Bachelor of Science in Environmental and Natural Resource Management from the University of Zambia. So Zambian Kitchen is a food blog that I created in 2017. I started on Instagram, and the background to this, the reason why I created it was because I had just gotten into cooking of traditional Zambian foods, and I was just new to Instagram. So as I was scrolling through, I could come across traditional cuisine from other countries. And personally, I was looking for cuisine from my own country so that I can learn some of the recipes, but I couldn't. So I decided to create the recipes myself. So I had to start consulting with people that were older than me that already had these recipes so that I can collect them and start posting them on Instagram. I later decided to create a blog so that it could be an internet platform where somebody could just Google and find these recipes. I kept the platform strictly traditional and authentic Zambian dishes because I realized this was the gap that was missing. And also the other purpose why I created the blog was because I wanted to share our local Zambian cuisine with the rest of the world. So after blogging for about 2 years, I decided to compile a book, which I called the Zambian Foods Cookbook in the picture there. The reason why I wanted to do this was so that I can have a copy of these recipes, the traditional recipes that were passed on from our parents in digital form so that they can be preserved for future generations. And with this book, I've been able to reach Zambian and even non-Zambian people locally and internationally who are interested in learning about Zambian recipes and Zambian cuisines. This is a snippet of just some of the recipes that are contained in the book. We have some kapenta, which are small dried fish, some vegetables cooked with groundnuts, and also some cassava leaves and some sweet potato leaves. So I got introduced to modern energy cooking services via an email. I was sent an email by Martin Price, and he asked me if I would be interested in using cleaner and cheaper methods of cooking my recipes. So of course I was very interested in this because it's cleaner energy, and I'm an environmentalist myself, so it was really something that I was interested in. And he also mentioned that it was cheaper, so I was really looking forward to know what it was about. So he put me in touch with Nancy and Clement from CEEZ, who came through with the electric pressure cooker. And when I saw it, I was at first skeptical about the idea because for me, I've always thought an electric pressure cooker is an appliance that you use to cook beans and some other foods that take longer to cook, really. And also the fact that it takes a shorter period to cook. In my head, I was thinking this must use up a lot of electricity because of its high efficiency. So I was really surprised when they explained to me that it takes up less electricity than using a regular stove. So I was really interested in finding out about this. They also shared that they had conducted tests in the laboratory in which they used the electric pressure cooker, the stove, the hot plate, as well as the LPG stove, which uses gas, and the charcoal brazier, which is Mbaula. And the electric pressure cooker was one of the appliances which actually used up less electricity. So I was quite impressed with this report, and I wanted to test it out for myself. So they left me with the electric pressure cooker so that I could start trying out my recipes in my everyday cooking of Zambian foods. I used it for about a week or two, and I was really amazed at the amazing features that it had and the different types of food that it could actually cook. Something that they also left me with was an energy meter so that I could test and record how much power was being consumed. So I could I connected this energy meter to the appliance so that every time I'm cooking, I'm able to tell how much power I'm using. We then went into a collaboration with MECS and CEZ, in which I was required to document my experience using the EPC by means of cooking videos. So I was given 5 recipes to cook, 5 different recipes, and I had to record videos of me cooking with the EPC. And my experience with these, it was I found out that the EPC had very amazing features, and I was impressed by how many dishes it could actually cook. And also how much less power it was consuming compared to a stove and to Mbaula. So I'm just going to share some of the videos that I made on here. So the first video is the cooking of nshima, which is a staple food in Zambia. It's made from 2 ingredients, that's water and maize meal. And my experience, I didn't even know that you could cook shima in an electric pressure cooker. So my experience using the EPC is that first of all, you always have to close the valve when you heating something under high pressure, and I discovered that when cooking shima, you can only use this one method where you mix the paste, you mix the maize meal with cold water in order for you to add it to boiling water, since your water was boiling on high pressure, because the other method of cooking shima just involves warming the water and then opening the lid and adding the mealie meal directly. So also on here, when stirring the shima, you have to keep the lid open. The lid has to be open so that you form a nice consistency. And I discovered that the electric pressure cooker actually has an option called the saute option on P05, where it can continue heating as the lid is open, and that's how you can stir your shima. I appreciated the EPC for nshima because it keeps the nshima warm even after you've left it in the pot for some hours. So you can cook it and leave it in there for an hour and come and save later. As long as the EPC still remained connected, the nshima will still be fresh. I also cooked some beans, and this was dried beans. It took about 2 hours to prepare beans, and normally the dried beans, when I cook it on a stove or in a mbaula, it can take maybe about 4 to 5 hours. When cooking the beans, that's where I noticed that a lot of power was saved. For example, cooking beans on mbaula can cost about 7 kwacha. On a hot plate, a stove can cost about 6 kwacha, but in the EPC, I was only able to use a cost of about less than 1 kwacha. I also prepared some chicken. This is free range chicken. In Zambia, it's known as village chicken. It's basically hard in texture, so it takes up a long time to cook compared to the normal chicken. So this also saved a lot of electricity and also cooking time. So for village chicken, the process is basically, at first you put it on high pressure so that it can become tender, and then once it is tender, you can fry it and then add some onions and tomatoes and your spices. So I was able to cook on high pressure using the high pressure buttons on the EPC, and then when it was time to fry, I used the saute option because it allows you to cook with the lid whilst the lid is open. Then when simmering, I put it back on high pressure and only simmered for about 2 to 3 minutes, and the chicken was tender. This chicken was ready in less than an hour. It was about 40 minutes. It was actually 30 minutes. It was ready in 30 minutes, and the cooking cost is about 35 ngwe to 1 kwacha 46 ngwe. So that's for the chicken. And then something else that I cooked in the EPC was vegetables. For the vegetables, I used the saute option throughout the whole process because the vegetables are very soft, so there's no need to cook them on high pressure. And there wasn't really a significant save in electricity, but it's just amazing to see how versatile the EPC really is. You can use it to cook so many dishes. My thoughts and observations when cooking with the EPC are that firstly, it is very easy to use. Anyone can use it. The buttons are well labeled, and it's very easy to learn how to use. It also cooks fast, so it cooks shorter periods of time compared to a stove or a charcoal brazier. It uses less electricity compared to the charcoal brazier and the stove. And also something that I cooked using the EPC was fish, both fresh fish and dry fish. And normally when I'm using a stove or a charcoal brazier in Baula, there would be flies around. But because the EPC has a lid that is very much closed, and then you cannot smell anything coming from the pot until you release the steam from the pressure valve. There were no flies in the kitchen. There were no flies in the kitchen as the aroma of the food is locked in the pot, as it is very well covered. Also, the saute function makes it possible for many dishes to be cooked in the EPC because it allows you to cook like in a normal pot, because you can remove the lid when you are cooking in the saute option and it's not on high pressure. Another feature is that I liked is that you can leave the pot unattended as long as you time it and set it. You can leave it unattended, and when it's done, it will switch off on its own. And then the pot itself is a non-stick material, making it easy to clean the EPC. In my conclusion, I would like to say that using cleaner energy such as the EPC is definitely a step in the right direction because it will help a lot of cooks like myself and home cooks and households to save money on electricity and also to save time. And not only does it do that, it also protects our environment and it will help our nation in the issues of load shedding. I feel it's very important that this information must be disseminated all over social media and possibly some roadshows so that it must be able to reach every household. And personally, as Zambian Kitchen, I look forward to working with MECS and CZ in doing so.
Thank you, Precious, Zikoma. So for all of you who wondered whether it's possible to cook shima or ugali or fufu in an electric pressure cooker, well, now you know the answer. So let me hand over to Vimbai, who's going to give us a sneak preview of what is coming next.
Hi, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Hi, yeah, I'm Vimbai, and I'm just going to give you an overview as to what is next and also the current cookbooks that we are working on. So I wanted to sort of highlight that we are developing cookbooks with a few country partners, and we've had to have quite a strong collaboration, and we utilized our skill sets and knowledge to be able to convey the message that is applicable to their country context. So the three things that you can see on the right-hand side is sort of the process that we have for the cookbook. So we create it and hopefully spread it to the relevant stakeholders. And then lastly, we're hoping sort of crowdsource recipes that can kind of promote the message that that modern energy cooking is sort of the way forward, especially for future generations. So these are the cookbooks that we are currently working with. So we have Myanmar, the one that is currently available online. So we've just finished that one. And we are going to be working with Zambia, currently working with India, and in the near future, Uganda. It's also important for me to note here that each cookbook has a message that they want to convey, and it's an important thing to do to show the kind of steps that we're going to be taking in and the message that is relevant to their country. For example, with Myanmar, it was more to do with showing a range of electric appliances that were energy efficient to try to convey the message that it is cheaper than using wood and charcoal. And with Zambia, it's almost the same message, but we're focusing more on the EPC and also introducing LPG as a modern energy fuel. And lastly, with India as well, because they use electricity and are aware of sort of the benefits, we've kind of taken on the EPC versus induction stove just to show that an EPC can be used to cook popular Indian dishes, and it can also be cheaper than using an induction stove. So I'm going to take you to the steps that we are currently taking with the collaborations with our country partners. So I will use each of the cookbooks to highlight the kind of steps. So we first look at creating the concept notes, think about the overview of the design, and then we create the designs, and then we review the content. And it's normally a cycle where we just continue reviewing and designing up until we're happy with the end results. So I'm going to start off with talking about Zambia as an example to show the kind of concept notes that we have been taking with them. So because Zambia is more focused on modern energy fuels, including LPG, we sort of had a different narrative as well. So these are the kind of questions that we create on how to build a concept note. So who's the audience? What is the purpose? Where are we going to get the data from? And how will it actually reach the target audience? So in a Zambia context, we sort of had to look at the issues such as load shedding and what our aim was with our audience, such as switching to energy efficient appliances, to be able to curb the costs and the perception that cooking with electricity is expensive. So after a concept note, then we sort of look at the overview of the design. This is when we collaborate with our partners and just kind of see what kind of designs they are looking for. For example, I'm using India as an example because we had a lot of design concepts. And I also just want you to note that this is not the complete design for any of the cookbooks that we're currently working with. As I said previously, it is an ongoing thing, especially when we start reviewing the content as well. So we usually start with the e-recipe book of the book, and also it is a way to highlight that the e-cookbook is different from a normal cookbook. So we would have within the e-recipes the ingredients and the methods, but what makes our e-cookbook stand out, as John had previously mentioned, is that time, energy, and cost. So it's one of the things that we highlight in the beginning, just sort of, as you can see here, the time, energy, and cost, and we try to highlight that initially before sort of moving on to the comparison of, say, devices. So after the overview, we sort of do the design pages and review. So I'm using Myanmar as an example here, as it is a complete book. So what you see on the right is what you do if you do open it up and want to see it for yourselves. So we review the content in terms of the spatial designs, the relevant text, the length and the size. As you can see on the left, that's what we initially did start off with, and we just sort of review and think about how will our audience actually engage with it? How would it look spatially? Do we have the right kind of content? So we sort of look at, you know, what the negatives are, maybe what the positives are, what we're going to keep, and then we end up with the result here on the right. And hopefully it's also a little bit cleaner and also relevant to Myanmar as well. So we try to incorporate the circles and the lines to kind of reflect the Burmese script. Just these small touches we think that do make a difference, and also having the space so that if it is printed as well in different formats, people can just sort of take a bit out of that book and disseminate it elsewhere. And then last but not least is the aim for what we're going to do after all of these e-cookbooks are done. We are looking to create e-recipes. So within the e-cookbook, we're going to try to show the e-recipe pages and try to highlight the cost, energy, and time, and hopefully be able to show it out to different local contexts. And we're also trying to get other people like around regionally and globally to be able to participate in it. So people would be essentially able to submit a recipe and again try to reinforce and try to engage future generations as they already use things like websites and other media outlets trying to get them more engaged and more a bit aware about sort of energy when they're cooking. So on the left side here is an example of the website. Again, it's still kind of like a concept ideas thing. So nothing really is accurate. Like, for example, I can definitely say it doesn't take 56 minutes to cook in Shima. Otherwise, that would definitely not portray the message. However, what this does kind of show is an energy recipe, which is what we're trying to highlight, sort of the importance in getting people to think about recipes in that way. So that is sort of the aim that we want to have after disseminating the cookbooks. So I think that's it from me. And thank you so much for listening. We're now going to go on to the Q&A section. But if you do want to find the cookbooks, you can go on mecs.org.uk/publications, and you can just filter through eCookbooks, and you can see all the cookbooks that we have and anything that comes out later. Thank you.
Thanks, Rimbai. So can I ask our three presenters, Precious, Sophie, and Katerina, could you just unmute and let me know whether you're still here with us and able to field any questions that may come in?
Hi, John. Yes, I'm still here.
Hi, John.
Hi, Katerina.
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic. Yeah, we can hear you now. And Precious, do we have you too? A full house? You might still be Okay, Precious, I'm not sure if you can hear you, I'm afraid. So given the limited time, let's go ahead and we can field the questions with Katerina, who is named Shukuru because I assume you're sitting next to Shukuru, and Sophie. So I've seen a few questions coming in on the chat here, but I'm going to start with one that we had looked at before, which is, what are the benefits of the other approaches that you've seen presented today, and how might they influence your future work on creating demand for energy efficient electric cooking? So Sophie, since your video is still on, would you mind taking a first stab at that one? And then Katerina, maybe if you could pick up, and Precious, if you're able to get unmuted, then over to you. So Sophie.
Yeah, thanks, John. I'll take that one. I think for me, it was very interesting to hear about the work that you're doing in Zambia, and listen to that presentation just now, because it shows that I think some of the key issues that have come up for Tanzania, Kenya, and now Zambia are quite similar in terms of how people are currently cooking, and the huge pressure that we already have on our current cooking systems that are highly unsustainable. So I was very happy to hear that in Zambia, testing the EPC was, reported to be really successful and seen as something that can again cook local foods. That's something that kept on coming up here. Can I cook ugali? Can I cook, ndengu, the main staple foods here? And it's good to see that that's something that's come up in Zambia. So I think the question now really is, how do we scale that up, and how do we work with the best lessons learned from the other countries to actually scale up those solutions and make them more affordable? I think is a really key issue, and also accessible. I'm not sure what the EPC penetration is in Zambia, but certainly when we started in Kenya, there were very few pressure cookers available, and that's increased massively over the last 2 years. So it would be interesting to see what the situation in Zambia, but really positive to see that that's been received positively by our presenter just now. So yeah, that's all from me.
Thanks, Sophie. Katerina?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. We thank for this great session. We see that we are meeting our customers here in the chat. Some we are making conversations with them here. But it was a challenge to see some traditional recipes with the EPCs. So as we are reviewing our e-cookbooks, that is something that we'll consider to add more recipes, especially the traditional ones. So it was great also to see the showcase of others, that the next time maybe we'll have a great presentation of what is in the book. But we are sure that most of people have now a copy of our Tanzania e-cookbook and can go through the contents and maybe advise also what can be very important to be included there.
Fantastic, thank you, Katerina. Yeah, I think we'd always seen the cookbooks as an evolving resource, that they would expand with time to cover different foods, different countries, and that we would learn from each other. We're already seeing that happen now with the new presentations from the new countries that have started producing new cookbooks, and hopefully we'll be able to build upon that and to revisit the cookbooks we've produced in other countries and produce even more comprehensive and digestible resources going forward. Precious, can I ask, have you managed to connect and unmute? No, sadly, I don't think we're able to hear from Precious. So the session is due to conclude in about 1 minute. So very understandable if people need to leave, but I'm going to suggest that we leave the Q&A running for another 5 minutes, just so we get a bit more time to hear from our audience and to hear from our presenters today. I see a hand has gone up. Whoever put that hand up, I can't see who it was. Would you like to unmute and ask the question?
Sure. I couldn't find where the chat button was, so I'm doing it by voice. So 3 years ago, when the MECS program was launched in Nairobi, at that time it was felt that the battery prices of lithium batteries would come down sufficiently to make it viable to have EPCs with lithium-ion or whatever batteries. And I know the COVID has been a disruption. So my question is there a timeline as to when it is now estimated that battery prices will come down sufficiently so that EPCs can be run with batteries? Because all these experiments, I think, are being run with electricity on the grid. Thanks.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Let me take a first stab at that one. So I think that time is already now. I think we are already at the price point whereby with the right financing model and in the right market, then the cost of the repayments on an EPC plus a battery supported system can already be less than the current expenditures on cooking fuels. We published a report last year with our colleagues at ESMAP, which looked at the relative costs of cooking in different country contexts and explored several scenarios where we found that it's actually already cheaper, both on grid electricity supported by batteries and for solar home systems in certain contexts for people to switch from expensive polluting fuels such as charcoal to relatively cheaper electricity. It's not the case for everyone. Every country context is different, and even within the country, then the urban versus rural scenario is different, and it's different for different fuels. But I'll put a link into the chat so that you can have a look at that question in greater detail. So I would like to pick up on the question that's come out through the chat about the different appliances. We have some questions about rice cookers, and we have some questions about induction stoves. So I'd like to point you towards the Myanmar e-cookbook, which does feature both rice cookers and induction stoves. The specific question is what is cheaper, EPCs or induction stoves? And again, it depends on what you're cooking. If you're cooking a heavy food like beans, then the EPC is likely to be much cheaper. However, if you're cooking something like a chapati, it's going to be very difficult for you to cook, if at all, in an EPC. and quick frying dishes such as the greens that we saw in Precious's video. They're going to be relatively similar on an induction stove on an EPC. However, this is a question we want to explore in much greater depth in the forthcoming India e-cookbook. So please do look out for that. So thank you, Shukri, for putting the link to the report I mentioned here. So please do look out for our forthcoming cookbooks on the MECS website, mecs.org.uk, and look out for them on social media. I would like to pass back to our panelists to have a last word for the session today. Sophie, would you like to go first and give any closing remarks? And then again, I'll hand over to Katerina.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think, from our perspective, we've been very interested in looking at how can you actually scale up a lot of these innovations and solutions that keep coming out of research. And I think the MECS program has done a really brilliant job at showing the research and the cost saving in the electric pressure cooker. And I think now we're at the point of looking at how can we make this something that is accessible across the country in Kenya, Zambia, Uganda, Ethiopia, and also how can we actually show the average farmer that it's something that you can use, that it's not just a modern invention that's sitting in Nairobi or sitting in Lusaka, but it's something that's very practical that you can use and that you shouldn't be afraid of and that you can actually massively benefit from. So I think we're at that point where we can now together think about how can we very creatively and in a very simple way communicate that message beyond the conventional ideas that a lot of us have. I think coming into this a few years back, we thought we could convince people to go into clean cooking because you're cutting down less trees and deforestation is an issue, climate change is an issue. But a lot of the time you'll find that those are not the things that motivate people to cook cleaner. So again, looking at the farmer and the actual user of such appliances to understand why are they using it? Is it aspiration? Is it time saving? You guys have done a really brilliant job at finding that out so far. And I think we can now build on that to actually scale that up and make this an appliance that is accessible. And we're at a critical time to do that as well. If we're going to stop a lot of negative impacts of climate change, I think we really need to look at clean cooking very seriously and actually get it to the user. So that's what we're very interested in doing. And I look forward to what comes as the next stage out of the MECS program going forward.
Fantastic, Sophie. I couldn't agree more, and very timely in the build up to the COP. So Katerina, can I pass over to you for your closing remarks?
Thank you, John. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this session. We are really grateful, for sure. We always appreciate your support, and we have a lot still to do. We still need to expand the message so that everyone can hear about the Ecook issues. We are also working hard with to get the government support, especially dealing with the policymakers, so that issues can be more easier. And also expanding the market of EPCs because we are still having availability issues in the market. So we are looking forward to continue cooperating with you, and we'll keep in touch with all programs so that we can get engaged and get more opportunities for more awareness raising and reaching more people to use electric pressure cookers. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. And one last time, Precious, are you able to give any closing remarks? Sadly not, it seems. So yeah, I just want to agree with Katerina's point that this kind of demand creation, awareness raising can't be done alone. It has to be done in parallel with development of the supply chain, the development of new delivery models, financing mechanisms, and the creation of the enabling environment by advocating amongst policymakers. So really, I think this is a critical moment, as we heard from Sophie. We've shown that there is a great compatibility between these new modern energy efficient devices and local cuisine in various countries now. And there are strong drivers for the transition to cooking with electricity. So we look forward to collaborating with our speakers here and all those who've joined us for the session today to build this new electric cooking market, which can really help to lift people out of poverty by enabling them to transition from cooking with biomass to transitioning directly to modern energy via energy efficient electric cooking appliances. So thank you once again to all of our speakers and to all of my co-hosts and to the MECS comms team who have helped put together the session today. And thank you to everyone who has persevered throughout the technical difficulties. Once again, I apologize for the challenges that we had, but I'm glad we got there in the end. So thank you everyone for your time, and do remember to check out the mecs.org.uk website and have a look at the cookbooks and all of the accompanying material yourself. And please do share as widely as possible. So thank you and good night.